Hello, my name is Timothy Watkins, and I'm the president and CEO of the Watts Labor Community Action Committee. It's a nonprofit 501c3 community development corporation that's been in Watts now for 45 years. We're standing in the middle of Mudtown Farms, which is a 2.5-acre piece of land with over 100 farmers occupying it currently, which expresses WLCAC's commitment to securing a resource that will eventually become what we call a food security solution in the community. There are very few options for people to access safe food, and we believe that through a proper strategy that employs the expertise of people that know about food safety, certified organic farming, and the education that comes with that, that maybe we can help inform the community about healthy choices and options for nutritious lifestyles.
How this benefits or works in relationship with redevelopment?
Well, in my opinion, it's unfortunate that the focus is only on the redevelopment. I think that Watts, as one of the poorest areas in all of Los Angeles County, certainly in the city, deserves to have solutions to its poverty. And I don't think that we can fix the problem of poverty with a single project, a single development. If we understand that the underlying causes of poverty are poor public policy, then that's the platform that I'd like to engage with you as the audience in this conversation. How this place can help the people of Jordan Downs as well as the nearby surrounding community is that it's an opportunity for folks to learn about the power of choice. That when the nearest option that you have for food supply is a food for less, it's an ironic title for that market. Food for less, meaning that it's for the less who and for the less what. We're looking at substandard meats and produce, and then if you decide that you want to go to the next market, the next nearest market is another food for less. So we think that this is an opportunity for education to take place because at WLCAC we strongly believe that the twin pillars of community well-being have to be founded upon education and health as the primary building blocks.
As a long-term resident of the Watts area, lived all your life, tell me how would you define the area for good and bad? What have you seen in the area that is something you would brag about to people who wouldn't know, and things that you might not be so proud of?
Well, to give a little perspective, I was born into the Palm Lane housing project in 1953, which was I would say a poorly built complex that wasn't meant to provide as permanent housing. It was torn down in 1968, 69 to make way for the Martin Luther King Hospital. And Martin Luther King Hospital was one of WLCAC's first community campaigns to bring about change after the 65 Revolt. When I think about something that I'm proud of in this community, it has to always be the hope and resiliency of its people. That no matter what poor public policy has been flung in the path of people that want every bit as much as anyone else to be part of the mainstream in Los Angeles, this is a community that has been totally compromised and undermined for all of its history by poor public policy. Policy that underscores, exacerbates, and perpetuates the problem of poverty. And so when folks talk about poverty to me, when folks talk about poverty in regards to this place and they start talking about poor people, I think it's a huge, huge embarrassment. But I'm proud of the people that resist that definition of being poor. I'm proud of the people that hope for a better way of life. And I'm proud of the people that actually fight every day against tremendous odds to live within the law and to realize some degree of self-sufficiency.
And what are the things about the community that you see bear a lot of improvement from within?
Well, again, I mean, you're talking to a guy that believes that poor public policy is what stands in the way of people's self-sufficiency and self-determination. And that I think that more than anything else, whether you're looking at illiteracy, homelessness, joblessness, poor health, you name it, across the spectrum of quality of life indicators, that in this place, policy drives and exacerbates poverty. And I think that if we as a community can band together and form the kinds of partnerships and strategies that would challenge poor policy just enough, not to abolish policy, of course, we have to have rules, but just to adjust it enough to make life a little bit easier to live in a place where we have very, very few resources to rely on for advancement.
I'd like to ask you is, how do you see the difference between the 65 revolt, as you say, and the 92 uprising?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. In regards to, I guess, the similarities or differences between 1965 and 1992, wherein on both occasions we had massive destruction, harm to human life, and sort of an unprecedented set of reactions or responses to people feeling oppressed. In 1965, there was a decidedly nationalist movement involved in the Watts Revolt. Despite the fact that the revolt didn't start in Watts, it didn't end in Watts, the majority of damage and loss of life did not occur in Watts, it was called the Watts Riot because that way the problem could be suppressed and contained within a confined area. That sort of illuminates what gave rise to the Watts Revolt in the first place, because people had gotten so suppressed and so contained in the pressure cooker of poverty and negative law enforcement, negative reinforcement of the law, that it erupted. They erupted, they revolted, they lashed out. In 1992, there was no nationalist movement accompanying the riot. That was a riot. That was not a revolt. That was a big, dangerous, splashy, dynamic, consequence of a whole mass of people feeling the pressure of what I consider to be the pressure cooker. Here in Los Angeles, if you're living under the poverty median, the poverty mean at roughly $12 an hour, which most people are, you find yourself in a sort of an unrelenting system of pressures and heat. And it'll get to a point where no matter how tightly the lid is capped on that pot, enough pressure will blow it. And that's what happened in '92.
What do you recall as the aftermath of the 65?
In the aftermath of the 65, I can think of 5 major developments in the community and nearby. One, of course, is the Watts Labor Community Action Committee coming into life in the aftermath of the revolt and the exodus of most upwardly mobile people, leaving behind people that couldn't simply move out, but now found themselves without many businesses and services. So WLCAC began to fill those voids. Also, the Watts Health Foundation, the Watts Learning Center, Charles Drew University, and I like to think that Kedron was also part of that evolution of systems that came in to address the two, as I call them, twin pillars of community well-being, health and education. That was one of the major outcomes that I think responded to the riot, or the revolt as others call it. But also certainly the flagship, which was the Martin Luther King Hospital and the community around it, that WLCAC and Charles Drew University and others played a vital role in developing.
And the aftermath of '92, how was that different? What, in terms of community organizations, as well as from promises from the outside to? Uprising, riot, whatever characterization, versus '65, and what your observations were about that?
Yes, my observation in the aftermath of the '92 uprising was profound sense of sadness. I'll never forget the images of what happened to Reginald Denny, a hapless sort of bystander to what was unfolding before his eyes, but also to the legions of well-wishers and good doers that meant perhaps well, but once again approached the community with the idea that somehow, we're going to redouble our efforts in this war on poverty. But having relegated the frontline soldiers, the people that were experiencing the poverty, to the outskirts of the conversation, I don't think there ever has been a chance yet for places like Watts to realize self-sufficiency as a result of the well-wishers and the well-doers. Watts and places like it need to be at the conversation from the inception. They need to be included in whatever the discussion is about what sustainable solutions are. It's not good enough for a Bill Clinton to come to South Central Los Angeles and say that we're going to invite corporations in to bring plenty of jobs and make life better. If corporations come in and simply avail themselves to so-called disposable income and the consumable habits of people, that ain't good enough. People need to own jobs. People need to be either in entrepreneurial situations, enterprising, whether that's social enterprise or through a nonprofit or for-profit enterprises. And they need to be in a position where they're manufacturing something, producing something that the world needs and will continue to come back for. And that I call job ownership. That is a different kind of quality.
Okay,
and I would add to that the County of Los Angeles and the City of Los Angeles play a role because they're in a position to reward local service providers, local vendors, local contractors, and oftentimes for reasons of financial bottom lines, we'll choose a foreign or a distant concern that comes in and actually, instead of recycling dollars within a community, they extract those resources. And so it would be a good idea for both the county, the city, and all others to find value in the processes that award contracts to service providers, whether that's in the public, private, nonprofit, or profit sector.
Has contributed to making things better if things have improved.
Okay. My perspective of relationships between community and law enforcement causes me to have very mixed feelings. I can remember seeing the sheriff pin a guy against the wall in 1965 during the riot or the revolt and shooting him in the back. I can remember in the time after that getting stopped and pulled over and harassed almost on a daily basis. I got 6 moving violations on the block between Hooper and Central, where I live on 88th Place, in 1 week at one time. That's the amount of presence. They were very mean-spirited policemen. They were Southern drawl policemen. They were very, very red around the neck. In the time since that, I've noticed that the police department has become far more sophisticated, and I think that I can count several good friends that are part of the law enforcement, LAPD. Between the community and the police in general is a different kind of story. Although there are great efforts underway by LAPD and the Sheriff's Department to improve public relations, young boys, 10, 12, 13 years old are still getting routinely pulled over, going on their way down Central Avenue on their bicycle with their backpack on after school on any given night, while the conversation rages on about profiling in Arizona, we see